Gentlemen, welcome back to the BB-Scho. As always, I'm your host, Beebs. I'm joined by my co-host, Chen. We're here for some trade deadline immediate reactions here on Halloween, on the day of the trade deadline. Backed up the episode somewhat intentionally, somewhat unintentionally, to get some basically live reactions to the trade deadline, and then as well as react to the Week 8 games, predict Week 9, and as always, buy, sell, hold. Before we get into any of that, Christian, the Packers just traded Rasul Douglas for a third-round pick, and they traded Rasul and a fifth for a third-round pick about 120 seconds ago. What is your immediate reaction?
Yeah, I mean, knee-jerk reaction is we are who we thought we are in the sense that it's over, man. Like we're 2-5. We're the handful of teams in the league right now that have a win or two. And it's a bad list, trust me. You look the teams up, none of those teams are – we're in that top 5 draft pick contention right now. And as painful as it is, I mean, because I really love Sewell. I mean, the story's so great. We pluck him off Arizona's practice squad. When Arizona was hot, he had like a game-sealing pick that kind of got his name back on the map. And he's been really good for us since third round, again, is not the worst value. I don't like that we attached a fifth considering where we're at. I think we need to hold on to really all picks. It's just kind of meh. And it also, like, I love that we were able to get Rashawn Gary back, but for the number at what it was and just the state of our team right now, I just think the move might be a little conflicting, personally. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, like your immediate reaction.
I think that this my immediate reaction is that this confirms that management is not the vision is not this year, and it probably never was. And myself included, slightly, other Packers fans, you go on Twitter, are outraged. They think that this season's a wash, which at this point it is. But I feel like I've done a decent job at least voicing my expectations on this podcast. I was preseason hopeful that we could potentially get a playoff spot. But the reality is we have an extremely young team with little to no playmakers on either side of the ball. Rasul Douglas was one of those playmakers. So to me, this just screams tanking. Maybe not like abusive tanking. Like we're still going to try and win 6 or 7 games, which is fine. Get Love as much, close game repetition as he needs. I still think he's the guy. I'm not in the camp of, a lot of people are on Twitter, fire Matt LaFleur, move on from Jordan Love, trade Christian.
Burn it all down.
No, this is like when we got rid of Devontae, like it was clear that we invested a lot, a 2nd-round pick, a 4th-round pick in Romeo Doubs. Forget what we spent on Jaden Reed, like multiple picks to reshape the entire wide receiver room. Like you're not going to find Justin Jefferson in the 4th and 5th round. But you might find Devontae Adams or Jordy Nelson or the guy, Randall Cobb, like the guys we found in the past. And that just is like, it's going to take time. And I think that next year is sort of the make or break deal with a lot of these young receivers. I think I would give Love another year after that. So 3 years of starting. So I would extend him for 2 years or something like that. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves a little bit. But knee-jerk reaction, we're not playing to win this year, which is fine because that's what our expectations should have been from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can dive right into the Vikings game if you want. No,
yeah, we've got it on the list. We've got it on the list, man. I think I kind of already said my biggest takeaway from this game. Like, we have no playmakers, and even when like things go our way in the 4th quarter and we have a chance to steal one or at least put ourselves back into the position to steal one, we cannot make a play. I think we freaking led the league in drops yesterday. It was just abysmal. And I think that the team is just lacking in identity and lacking and especially on offense. I think the defense is middle of the road to above average. But when you've got such a young offense, you need an identity, and we're struggling to run the football. We're struggling to throw the football. That's, It's not a great recipe for offensive success. And the only time we ever seem to have offensive success is in the fourth quarter, which is, just
When the game's
absurd.
half over. Yeah,
I'm
I was
interested. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was afraid to admit this, like, 2 weeks ago, because I'm an avid Packers fan. I believe when there may be literally no reason to believe in this season, and I'll just say I purchased Red Zone for the reason of I can't watch the games. Like I quite literally, I'm like, I'll tune in if it's close, but I work a very early schedule now, and we had two primetime games. That really affects somebody who has to go to work at 3:45 in the morning. So when I'm staying up to watch the disaster piece that is the Packers this year, and I keep getting burned after the second time, like, you know what, the joke is on me. I'm gonna get Red Zone and watch other teams. And I'm even as I'm watching Red Zone this past Sunday, it's like, man, they haven't really showed the Packers for a while. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. It just then Kirk goes down. I'm like, oh, and then we had like the early turnover. Maybe we'll start getting coverage. No, I don't even think they showed when the game ended because the
No, I had
Packers
to
didn't make it
switch
close
off of
enough.
Red Zone. I had to switch off of Red Zone to watch the Packers game. And then I switched back to Red Zone fairly quickly.
Yeah, very
But
quickly.
look, I think that the Packers season, it was a great 2-1 start. I think that the game against the Bears really blew me away. I didn't expect us to be that dominant. And I was running victory laps like crazy. And the reality is, like, the loss against the Falcons, 1 point, that was rough. Then you lose to the Raiders. We can't be losing to these kind of teams if we're gonna like sneak into the playoffs. Like, that's the bottom
The
line.
Broncos, yeah.
Yeah, you lose to
So,
the Raiders, then the Broncos, and the Falcons are middle of the road. But it's that's gonna boost your draft stock for the next for the next spring when you lose to those teams, man.
yeah.
But I think the bigger takeaway here is, like, we didn't really learn anything new about the Packers on Sunday. Um, we learned more today, honestly, with the Douglas trade. What we did learn is that the Vikings, man, they really started to win 3 games in a row or whatever it was, proving a lot of my preseason predictions correct. That this team can win the North, they can win double-digit games, they can still, like, they just got rid of the
They're
turnover
still in the
bug.
hunt. Yeah.
Yeah, in the hunt, and then Kirk goes down with a torn Achilles. Man, I wish Jake was here for his immediate reaction, because I'm not even. I don't even like the Vikings, and I'm pretty, like, heartbroken for Kirk. Man, like, playing the best ball of his career, winning games in prime time against good teams like the
Yeah.
49ers, like,
Pretty much.
without Jefferson on the field, like, he was balling out. And man, it's just a tough road to see. I'm interested to see where the Vikings go. But what are your thoughts on the Josh Dobbs trade that just came through today as well, and just the Vikings situation as a whole?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, personally, Dobbs, I don't think he's going to do what Kirk Cousins can do. I think that'd be ridiculous, especially just walking in to the building. But he's been around on a lot of teams, and if he can give him that kind of Jacoby Brissett esque production of like is not going to lose you games, they might win a couple more. But my like really huge takeaway is and granted, they beat us down. Like, all right, I'll give the victory lap. I know I was a Packers fan. I don't have really any legs to stand on right now. But we saw how tough it was for them to get going this year with Kirk and Justin Jefferson, and now you don't have both. Like, it maybe I'm wrong, but that's got to be their two like key players on the entire team. Now that Kirk's done, Jefferson might be back. I'm just not. I'm pretty sure I bought stock in the idea of them making the playoffs, and it started to look good, but I think that dream's over now. They win a couple games throughout the rest of the way. I think if I'm a Vikings fan, I wouldn't mind if the season's kind of phoned in and you're like kind of going
Here's
for
the
draft
here's the
position.
thing though, is they're 4-4. Like, that's why,
Mm-hmm.
like, I have the same thought process, but then it's also like the defense is kind of overperforming, playing really well. They just beat the Niners in prime time. And it's like, and all of this without Jefferson, I think we're really gonna. I think what this is gonna show us is, like, it might actually help Kirk's legacy a little bit. Like
Yeah,
it's going to
even
show
if
us
they're
what
like
he's
terrible.
actually done for them for the past few years. Either
Right.
that or Josh Dobbs comes in a couple weeks. Let's say they slide to 4-6. I don't know their schedule. 5-5, 4-7, maybe when he's playing. Like, what's the realistic win count? We'd have to go game by game, but I like. Can they get to 8 wins? Can they get to 9 wins? Can they go 500 the rest of the way, and
Right.
sneak into the playoffs that way? Like, I think they could. I actually think they could. Like, it's not like Josh Jobs is walking into a like room without weapons. Like, he's gonna get Jefferson back. He's got Hawkinson, and the defense is middle of the road. Like, it's not. They've got Addison. Like, it's not
Yeah.
a bad. It's
Yeah.
better than Arizona was for him. The question is, how long is it gonna take him to get ready? And even then, like, is he going to be better than the guy who's been with the rookie? I forget his name, Hall, who's been there since
Yeah, Jaron Hall.
who's been there since
Yeah.
camp. Like, is he going to be better in the Kevin O'Connell system? Like, that's debatable.
Right.
You know?
Really yet to see it, but who knows, man? Really, who knows? Just a really tough blow for a team that's it's been up and down already. I mean, you just not a lot of stability in the rooms that are probably most important in today's game. I mean, you think of like quarterback, maybe receiver room, lineman, but yeah, tough break.
Yeah, I don't disagree. But that's I feel like there's been a lot of injuries this year, man. Like more than and to key players.
Key
Like
plays, man.
yeah. Um, let's move on though. Another team struck by an Achilles tear, the Jets, who are
Hmm.
salvaging a season, man. They are salvaging a season somehow, some way. They're 4-3.
Yeah.
Um, they win this thriller in OT thanks to Zach Wilson of all people marching them down the field to get the game tying field goal after your boy Graham Gano shanks a 35 yarder. Um, what's your take here? This was kind of got a lot of attention, media attention. Like 15 punts in the first half, I think, between the two
Yeah.
teams. Like, go ahead.
My and this is maybe more just pinpointing Zach Wilson because in terms of the game quality, it was pretty bad. I mean, let's just say the Giants at one point, I think they only threw like 7 passes with their third string quarterback for -1 yard. Like it was probably the worst passing performance I've seen in my life. Quite,
Yeah,
like just no holds
I mean
barred there.
they're down to their third guy. Like,
Yeah, like
you know,
it's yeah, but holy cow.
the stat
I
I
know
the
the
stat I
conditions weren't
saw was
great.
well, sorry, but Darren Waller
Oh,
actually he had 57% of the team's receiving yards on Sunday. He finished the game with 4 yards.
cold. So they had 7 total yards as a team. Wow. That's incredible. Um I just think from where like just from my really just watching this year, I know Zach Wilson, we're starting to see him kind of step up a bit, getting some wins, clutch moments. I would be encouraged though if you check the other stat lines kind of like around the NFL, um, and you pair him with Zach Wilson, like he's still kind of down there, man. I'm gonna be honest. The team is really
Yeah,
like
but
they won 13-10. I
what
know he's
he's
getting it done.
what he's doing this year that he didn't do last year is he's not losing them games. Like, he's not turning the ball over. He's not making horrible decisions. He's throwing for anywhere from 150 to 250 yards a game, maybe a touchdown, relying on the defense
Maybe
in the
two.
run game to manage it. Obviously, this was a weather game, but you can't really argue with definitely signs of improvement. And you know they're 4-3. The Bills don't look super great. Like, that wild card spot's there. I know we had these discussions preseason and everything changed with them, but I think it's there if they can go take it. They've already beaten the Bills once.
I know what you're saying. Hey, I hear what you're saying. I'm just gonna go with the classic Colin Cowherd analogy here. If you're trying to clean up a spill on the floor with a fork, it's not gonna go very well. And you get a toothbrush it's better. It's improvement, right? I mean, you can clean it up a little, you can spread it around, but it's not even close to a mop or a rag or what is acceptable to clean up a spill. And that's my stance on Zach Wilson. Is he is kind yes, improvement, not as bad as last year, but like I feel like people still hate on Russ, and dude's got like a 16-4 touchdown
He's having
INT
a really
ratio.
good year, dude.
Yeah, so I just from the Zach Wilson standpoint, and you know what though, I can say what I want. We bring up the Russ Wilson, like I forgot my clown nose and wig today because I can't believe how much of a sell, like quite literally and figuratively, that was.
For
Uh,
those who didn't listen to last week's episode, in about week 2 or 3, Christian bought stock in Russell Wilson and proceeded to sell it all off at what we deemed a break-even point last week. And we can just move on to the Broncos game because it's on the schedule. Broncos beat
yeah,
the
yeah.
Chiefs for the first time in 17 matchups. They had lost 16 straight, 4 years worth of no 8 years worth of games
Oh my god.
between between the Chiefs and the Broncos. Is that correct? 8 years?
It sounds correct since like
I know it
2015.
was. I know it was 16 games in a row they've lost to the
It's just
Chiefs.
unreal.
So there's
Wow.
8 years, man. That's yeah.
A long time. A
That's a
long
long
time.
that's a long time. Russ, 3 touchdowns, 114 yards. Chiefs lose 9-24. I need a knee jerk Chen reaction to this one. Are we scrambling to buy Russ stock back?
No, because as good as the 3 touchdowns was, there was still only 114 yards. And as good as statistically he is on paper, you could also look at the game tape and say otherwise. He takes a lot of sacks he doesn't need to, in my opinion. Just from watching the Packer game, but then watching this, it's just the way he's playing. He's playing to not make mistakes, and in Sean Payton's system, it's really easy to kind of play that way. I mean, he tries to make it easy in terms of reads and whatnot, but
Let me ask you this though: in a year's time, when he's in year 2 in Sean Payton's system, are we talking about something that's like return to form? Like I
if
mean,
he gets the time, I think I would love if he got it because I don't think, from a Broncos standpoint, they're going to be in range right now to get one of those top quarterback prospects. And I'm kind of in
they
the
can't,
camp of
dude. They're paying him $400 million.
exactly, and that's the other thing. It's like you already got this large price tag. You double down by trading the rest of your picks for Sean Payton. Um, they're just kind. I think they have to see, no matter how it would have went this year, but it should be encouraging for Broncos fans that your offense might be able to figure itself out. I think it's really just defensively, which they did a great job. In a what world would you think that the Broncos, who gave up 70 points to the Dolphins, would hold the Chiefs to 9 in the same
I have a
season?
take. I have
I
a
would
take.
love to hear the take because
I,
that was appalling to me.
I've been feeling this for a couple weeks. I've briefly mentioned it a little bit, but this to me really solidified the feeling of like the Chiefs this year. They're not the Chiefs, man. Like they have struggled to throw the ball this year. They really have, and they've won games on the ground. And they played a team that found somehow, held them to what, 65, 67 rushing yards. Um,
Mm.
and then they were required to go and get open against man coverage, and they have one guy that can do that, who's been dinged up for most of the year. I'm not saying that the Chiefs aren't AFC contenders. I'm just saying they're not going to win the Super Bowl. I think that's where I'm at. Like, I really think that they are not. I liked the McCole Hardman trade because they went and got somebody that they needed.
Yeah,
And I
familiar.
actually, they might have, somebody just traded for Donovan Peoples Jones. Like
The
30,
Lions.
was it the Lions? Okay.
Lions, yeah.
Because there was talks. Oh no, it was Darnell Mooney that the Chiefs wanted to get, and I have not seen a report on
Mm.
that yet. Which I actually think would be a great move for them because they just need depth in the receiver room. You went from an offense that had Mahomes, Travis Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill. Like you went from that, and then that Chiefs receiver room after Tyreek Hill was actually very solid. You had Nicole Hardman. You had I forget, there was somebody else who went on to have success elsewhere, and I can't remember who it was, but that room was good,
Yeah.
and it had depth. And then once they lost Tyreek, it was like, oh, we'll kind of try to. They tried to like moneyball it, like, oh, we'll get the speed with Marquez Valdez Scantling, and then we'll just give the receptions, the short stuff to Justin Ross or Sky Moore, and it just has not panned out. They've
No.
taken shots. Sky Moore, I think, he dropped that touchdown. It was bad. Perfectly placed ball from Mahomes. Look, I'm not going out and saying the Chiefs stink. They're going to win the AFC West. They're going to be a high seed. But I am saying they're not the Chiefs of old. They've looked off this year. They have not been able to throw the ball as effectively as they have in the past. And I think that their general management's lack of care for the receivers is catching up to them, much in the way that, well, I guess I can't really say that the Packers did the same because we at least had Devontae at that time, which I guess he does at least have Travis Kelce. But
Valid. Yeah, I wish we could have had Travis Kelce for Aaron. Others, yeah, kind of final thoughts on the Chiefs in general is personally, I'm not gonna waver. Like I think if any team would figure it out, it's the Chiefs. I feel like at some point every year we kind of say this about them, and it may bode true that they don't make it back to the Super Bowl. But I think it's interesting that it's like it's even like you can make it a hot take because it's the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, like Bengals may not make the Super Bowl. It's like, well, that's just but like the Chiefs not making it is like they got the best quarterback in the game. They got the best
it's
tight
really
end in the
not,
game.
and like
Like they're
I want to
usually that's
say
their
this too.
expectation. Like
I
it's kind
agree.
of
Like
crazy, but
that's what makes it sound like a hot take for me to be like, I don't think they get back to the Super Bowl because their expectations are so high. But it's not even that hot. Like I don't think it's that hot of a take for me to say they've struggled to throw the ball this year. Like they've won
oh
their
yeah,
games.
no,
They've won their
100%.
games on the ground and with their defense, and they just didn't have it like against the Broncos. And they've had a lot of other close games that they've pulled out where the dominance of old is not quite there. And when you look at teams like Philly right now, and we'll get to
Yeah,
Cincinnati, who's here we are in week 8. Here we are in week 9, just like we said, man. Just like we said. We'll get to Cincinnati
every
next.
time,
It's,
every
it's
time.
it's I mean, it's insane. But that's where we're at with the Chiefs. They're just I don't know. They'll be fine. Like they'll be fine. Don't get me wrong. They'll be fine. Just like the Bengals, we said the Bengals will be fine. The Chiefs will be fine. They'll be playing
Yeah,
the Bills. They'll be playing the Dolphins. They'll be playing the Bengals. Somebody in the playoffs. And those are the teams I don't know if they get through this year because I don't know if they have Arrowhead behind them. That's kind of where
mm,
I'm at.
and that will definitely make a difference this year. And I see the vision, especially when we go on to the Bengals and 49ers because Bengals, I mean, look, it's literally every year this happens since Joe Burrow's got there. But I think the 49ers to me, it was more shocking. All right, in the sense that
I agree.
they have now dropped 3 straight. I'm not like out on them. I still think they can meet in championship game with the Eagles, but taking 3 straight this early, I just have questions. Like I'm not panicking, but it's kind of like, all right, I'm gonna flip the lid up. I'm gonna watch, see what happens because I mean they drop another. You lost 4 straight, and how many contenders are
So
capable of
they play
that?
the Jaguars this week.
That's what I mean. Like their schedule
Like,
is not easy the rest of the way. It's really not.
here's I know Purdy's catching a lot of flack right which to me I think is unwarranted. Like, what was the guy 8-0 in like regular season starts to
Yeah.
start his career? Like, yeah, he's not gonna win every game for the rest of his life.
Right.
He's gonna
Jeez.
have bad games, and he had some bad moments in these games, more interceptions than he's ever thrown and whatnot. My concern is more or less like the defense is like, what's the word for deprogressing? Like they're regressing.
Oh
Sorry, the
no,
defense
yeah,
is
that's
regressing as the year goes on. You had dominant performances against the Cowboys, the Cardinals, and then I think the offense might have lost the game against the Browns. That was their first loss of the year, I believe. Kind of struggled to get the ground game going. Only gave up 19 points. Couldn't win the game. But then Kirk and the Vikings. I know the offense only scored 17 in that game too. But Kirk and the Vikings aired it out and dominated time of possession on Monday night last week. Like
Mm.
that was a Vikings win. And just pulling up Kirk's stats, he threw for 378 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it's just to me, it's more of a defense thing. And then we've got Burrow this week, the defense's worst performance of the year.
Mm.
283, 3 touchdowns. Burrow's play the game. They can't get him on the ground. I agree. My takeaway from this game, well, you know what? I'm not going to say that. I was going to say that my takeaway from this game is more anti-Niners than pro-Bengals, but I disagree with my own statement.
Well, yeah, the Chase Young trade, because we talked about the defense, and right away you plug that in with Nick Bosa. What is your thoughts on that?
We can get to the Chase Young trade from the Niners' perspective. I love it. They literally paid less for Chase Young than the Bears did for Montez Sweat. you know, but from the Commanders' perspective, I really don't get it at all. But from the Niners' perspective, I like it. We'll see how long it takes him to get plugged in. It's sometimes a little easier to plug in on the D line because you can just have a linebacker tell you what gap you're in. Like, that's when you can't plug in a mic like that or a DB. You got to learn hand signals and whatnot. D end, yeah, okay, put him in on third downs his first week. Go get the quarterback, right?
Right.
Same thing with the receiver. Like, go run this route, and we'll figure it out as we go. But it still takes time to get fully integrated into a system. And look, it's not like they don't got a great defense already. They've got Fred Warner, Hall of Famer. They've got a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a great move. I think it's going to beef up the pass rush. It's going to beef up the run game, or run defense. I like it a lot for what they paid, but it's another win now move that I think I don't know if they're there this year right now. That's the thing. Is like these contracts are going to catch up to them. They are. They're not going to be able to keep these names on their roster. I mean, Chase Young's on the last year of his rookie deal, I'm pretty sure. Like the Commanders didn't take his 5th-year option. This is year 4. I'm 90% sure. I'd have to double check that. But just something where it's like, okay, you got Bosa, Warner, Greenlaw, Ayuk, Samuel, McCaffrey, Kittle. Purdy's on a veteran minimum deal because he's a 7th round pick. Like, you're kind of getting to that point where it's like where we talk about the Bengals are a little bit closer to it, where it's like it's got to be right now. And I respect them for making this move because they know it's got to be right now. But it also feels like the 49ers have been right now for like 5 years and they can't figure it out. And that's where if I don't know. I don't know what to get them over the hump because on paper, getting Chase Young would probably be my exact response. But it's something where maybe we're just overreacting to a 3-game skid. It's just a 3-game skid. It's a long season.
Very true. Yeah, 17 games now instead of 16.
I do want to take time though. Like this Bengals turnaround, man, it's something else because not only have they won 3 straight, they were 1-3. They won 3 straight. They've won 3 straight against good team. Well, I guess not. I look back. I was thinking they beat the Bills, but they played the Bills this week. I was confused. Niners was a big win. They win a close one against Seattle, and then they looked great against the Cardinals. So now the offense, per usual, as we said a million times, the Bengals are going to suck for the first 3 weeks, 4 weeks of the season. We're going to get to week 8 to 10, and they're going to be red hot. Here we are. I think they're going to roll through the Bills on Sunday Night Football. And it's going to be like, man, why did we ever doubt this team? They're AFC contenders. They're the favorites, right? And it's, well, no, they're actually still behind the Ravens in the division. So where are you at, with the AFC North picture? Because I think the Browns are in the mix too. Like, the Bengals have losses to the Ravens and to the Browns. Where are you at in their ability to come back and win this division?
I think my proper response is I have no idea. Like, I've been going back and forth about it all day, and part of me is like, I think they'll run the table. But I feel like every one of my predictions lately has just been ice cold. Like, it's just I've not been on a good streak, man. And between I think yes, from what I'm seeing, they should win the division. Like, I don't think the Ravens are that scary. The Steelers are going to find their way to 9-8, 10-7, like they always do. And the Browns have had their kind of issues between just Watson, but like they're still a good team on paper. It could go any way. When it's like the Ravens could turn it on as well. You see how good Lamar can be playing, and what they did with the Lions. I mean, the Browns have the talent, and the Steelers, they might just go make a run. Who knows?
So
But
here's the thing with the Bengals. I think it was 2 weeks ago. We looked at their remaining schedule and we were like, "Man, this is going to be tough. Like they need to beat the Card."
tough, yeah.
It was the week they played the Cardinals, and we said if they lose this one, we're slamming the panic button. And then they won in commanding fashion, and then they snuck out a close one against the Seahawks, and now they roll the 49ers. And it's like, okay, what the Niners are in the top 5 teams in the league. They're going to be beating them by 2 scores, throwing for 300 whatever yards. Like there's really nobody they can't compete with.
Right.
And now they're back to who they are. And when I look at their remaining schedule, what once looked so tough now looks like, oh, okay. Because I think they're going to beat the Bills this week. They have the Texans after that. Okay, so they're probably winning their next two. Then they go Ravens, which will be a big. That's big for the division. Then they go Ravens, Steelers. They have the Jaguars still on the schedule, right? So then they go Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, Bengals, and Chiefs are at Arrowhead. So let's say they lose to the Chiefs, lose to the Ravens again, Ravens/Steelers again/Jaguars. There's probably 2 or 3 losses left on their schedule. At worst, in my opinion, that puts them at 11 wins. Like, you know what I'm saying? That puts them at 11 or 10-7, or 11-6.
I hear what you're saying. I think that's reading that schedule is where my hesitancy comes from, because I know we're kind of giving them the like, all right, if they get a couple more losses, they'll be all right. But like this season, I feel like specifically is one where like no plan has gone according to plan. At least not for the entire season. There's been a lot like roller coasters for almost every team, and I just we're almost asking them to kind of be perfect. And in the division they're in, the way the rest of the AFC is looking, it's not that I don't have confidence in the Bengals to make a deep playoff run. I don't know if I have confidence in that they just lose a game we don't expect. And all of a sudden they're chilling at like 10-7 and the Ravens going at 11-6 with a tiebreaker. Like, it doesn't mean the Ravens are the better team. It's just the way the schedule fell.
So, I mean, you think 10-7 is good enough to get the wild card?
Yeah.
Because this is a team that went to the Super Bowl as a 6 seed 2 years ago.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. I see the deep playoff run. I just
going on the road every week, and they beat everybody.
But yeah, no, this isn't for me to like push back. Like, I feel just as confident in like the Bengals as that group, and I'm as confident as you, but in the sense of it's just like a numbers game, like in just their division, who they play, the rest of the AFC, and just the way this year's shaping up. The Broncos Chiefs was like my I don't know football game of the week. There's one of them every single week where it's like you think it's a surefire, like you're putting that on your parlay is like a lock, and so many parlays probably just got killed because of that.
Yeah,
and I just
that's fair. That's actually how I felt about Texans Panthers this week, but that's not on the docket.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just like, man, I don't know football. Like, what? I was so convinced the Panthers weren't going to win this game. But one final game. We've talked a lot about the Bengals. I'm sure we'll continue to talk about them as they heat up, as I'm predicting. One final game I want to touch on really quick. Will Levis makes his debut, the third quarterback ever to throw 4 touchdowns in his debut. It was some guy from the 40s, and I think Joe Montana. I'm not 100% on that.
Wow.
It was, yeah. It might have been Johnny Unitas. Like, I saw Red Zone flash the graphic. Just know he's the third quarterback ever to throw 4 touchdowns in his debut, which is quite insane. What are your thoughts, man? Like, I think if the Titans like have found something at quarterback here, this wasn't a freak performance. Like, they could be back in like pretty quickly in the conversation. I think that they are maybe a year away from like reloading the roster to kind of like get back to that AFC South, AFC dominance that they were in 10 to 12 win seasons. But what are your thoughts?
So it's a crazy concept, mind-boggling for a lot of NFL coaches for some reason. But when you have a really strong and your identity, I guess, essentially is in the ground game, it really helps when you throw the football like down the field. And with Ryan Tannehill, they weren't doing that. We talked about like
They
Deontay
were,
Hopkins
they
not.
were in like 2020, 20, like I always say,
Yeah,
pre AJ Brown trade, they were.
when they were good. And they haven't been good because of the fact they've gotten away from it. And even with like Malik Willis, I don't think his career's done. But like he might fall in like the Christian Hackenberg vein of like just never is going to get an opportunity because of just how bad he kind of looked in his. And it is what it is. That's kind of how it shakes out for some guys. But on the flip side of it, it's like you talk about Will Levis seizing the opportunity. I mean, there's questions about the guy's character. They said some toe injury was the reason he slipped down to the second round. It's like, all right, he was predicted, I mean, top 10 at least for a lot of mock drafts. Some were saying as high as 4.
Which I remember
And
saying it was inflated value. Like I didn't.
and I would have to agree with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, it was like, I don't see it. But I mean, you saw what you saw on Sunday, and it's like, all right, maybe I see the vision because it was he just was it wasn't like he wasn't just like he was taking the deep shots, wasn't scared to take them, but he
Dude.
was delivering amazing balls. Like
Yes.
pause, but like they were
No,
like
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
perfect accuracy. And
What
it worked.
impressed me the most, was not like, oh, we threw for a bunch of yards and 4 touchdowns. It was just like he's delivering throws while getting hit that are bombs, perfectly in stride, leading away from defenders. The one touchdown he threw that wasn't to D Hop was what I thought was the best. Was like
When he was on
somewhat
like the
back,
right hash,
yeah, and he
went
threw
like
it back across the
yeah,
field, up over his shoulder, teardrops in. It was like, oh my gosh, dude! Like you don't see those throws every day on the red zone. Like genuinely, like those
no,
are Rodgers esque. Like what the heck did I
elite deep
just?
ball,
Yeah,
yeah.
elite deep ball throws. And I think that if he continues to like just deliver that threat for the Titans, it could have been. I'm interested to see. Every time we get a rookie quarterback, somebody young gets in there midseason. Teams don't know how to game plan right away, and they're reacting. And you see a lot of rookie quarterbacks have a sophomore slump or something
Yeah.
where it's like they were really good, and then teams figure it out. And obviously, like there's just no way the Falcons were prepped for that because they haven't shown that all year, the ability to go downfield like that. And
Yeah.
so I'm interested to see as the year progresses if defenses can catch up, and especially if he gets named starter next year and wins the job and they roll with him. I'm very interested to see like, is it sustainable? And that's what separates the greats from the average. But I'm just interested to see like what he's got. And one game is obviously not enough, but he looked great, like no doubt. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So to recap, all of Week 8 picks, I was 10-6, you were 7-9, Jake was 8-8. And where that puts us on the year, I'm 75-47. You're 64-58. Jake's 49-40. So I put in a little win percentage thing too because Jake's got less games than us, so there's a little bit to keep it competitive in that sense. I have a 61% win percentage right now. You have 52, and Jake has 55. So relatively close, but I definitely am.
You're pulling away.
I'm pulling away. I'm hot. I'm feeling good. I'm winning games that I've noticed I'm getting games that a lot of people aren't, and that's what's separating me. Like I was the only one who had the Cowboys this week, and they blew them out. I was the only one who had the Saints this week, right? For some reason, also I need to hold you accountable for this. You took the Bears. I don't.
It was like an upset pick of the week, and here I am. I my picks get upset. I need to understand that.
You also picked the Commanders, which actually they put up a good fight.
It was, yeah. It was 14-3 at one point. I was like,
really, the differences this week, and I almost got Giants too, which nobody else had, and then you guys both had Jets. I almost stole that one too, but you had Packers. That was basically the difference between you and Jay. You had Packers. He had Vikings. I had Vikings. I had Saints. You did have Bengals. We both had Niners. But then Bears was awesome. Packers and Bears kind of sold you the week, separated you
Classic.
from the
No, it's a
classic,
shocker.
classic. But before we get into week 9 predictions, we've kind of touched on it a lot already. Are there any trades that you just want a knee jerk reaction that have happened today? We talked about Chase Young, a little bit about Montez Sweat. We actually probably talk a little bit more about him. Darnell Mooney rumors, Josh Dobbs, or anything else you've seen on Twitter since we started recording. But the floor is yours.
Disappointing. I honestly, for the trade deadline, like my
I don't know, man.
initial reaction.
The NFL trade deadline is not the NBA trade deadline.
I know that
last
we
year
got,
was
like,
just crazy.
McCaffrey last year, like I don't know. I know where you're coming from. Like, it's not the NBA. I shouldn't have expected as much as I did.
Oh
But
my
I was
gosh.
thinking one star was going to get moved, or did I?
Sorry. Per Joe Douglas, the GM of the Jets, quote,
Yep.
"We're expecting Aaron to be back this season."
Wow.
There's a live reaction. Oh my gosh.
I need to figure out what kind of therapy that man's on, or the theory that my boy Luke has posed to me and is running with, and now I'm starting to see the traction. Is Rodgers never actually tore his Achilles, and that it was just a strain they're playing up for like this heroic like comeback. Because
just so the Packers, just so he doesn't play 65% of snaps, and the Packers get a second round pick.
Yes, for the picks, and they saw what happened with Russ in Denver, and were like, we got to ease him into this slowly, even though the entire Jets, state of New York, and even really everywhere was like, we need to see Rodgers in like a full season. But I mean, that's a huge comparison. I mean, we're talking all sorts of allegations here.
No, I think
if that were the
I
case,
saw the video, man. His Achilles,
incredible. Yeah, it's shot. That is an incredible turnaround, man. I mean, I don't even know how it's possible. For a couple months, do you have full mobility? I don't
know. We'll see if he actually makes it. We'll see if he actually makes it back. Like, you know, if they're out of the playoffs and it's week 16 or week 17, like, this is also something that the Packers did when he broke his collarbone and we lost, when he just rushed back and we went and it was like, oh, put him back on IR, the season's over. Like, we were all hyped for him to come back and it's not there.
Right.
All right. Trade deadline. Here's just the quick recap. All right. Giants trade Leonard Williams to the Seahawks for a second and fifth. We can get into that because it makes no sense to me. Commanders trade Montez Sweat to the Bears for a second. Chase Young to the Niners for a third. Vikings trade Ezra Cleveland to the Jags for a sixth. Cardinals trade Josh Dobbs and a seventh to the Vikings for a sixth. So basically nothing. And Browns trade Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions for a sixth.
Yeah, underwhelming is definitely my.
I think it's a lot of action for an NFL trade deadline. I know, like, you know, NBA spoiled us a little bit sometimes, but I don't know. I think my thing with the Commanders, I kind of was texting you about this. Like, I guess like where their roster's at, and I'll kind of go off on the Chase Young rant a little bit because it makes no sense to me. Because where their roster's at on paper, they should be performing, in my opinion, better than they are. And when you have that kind of situation where it's like you can't look at the field and see injuries or a specific position group or facet of the game that they suck in for why they're losing games, it's usually the coach. So if they're going to ride with Ron Rivera, I see where they're coming from in terms of moving some of these pieces now, and just like they just need to shift something because it's clearly not working. My response probably would have been to fire Rivera, which I don't think they're going to do because of the situation he's guided them through with ownership. That I think it would be, they just think it's unfair to fire him, which is probably fair.
Fair, yeah.
But Montez Sweat deal for a second, yeah, that's a win considering Chase Young was a third. But my thing with Chase Young is like he's a second overall pick. You didn't pick up his fifth-year option. Like, what more do you want out of a second overall pick? Like, he has not been bad. He's just not like, not every first edge rusher passer that you take in the draft is going to be Micah Parsons. Like, look at Jadeveon Clowney. He had a successful career, but he wasn't J.J. Watt. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like Chase Young is awful. he's like an above average pass rusher
Mhm.
on a rookie deal that you could have extended, like, and then made a decision from there. And it's like, to trade him for a third rounder is like, what?
Selling low. It is,
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely selling low considering the premium of kind of a price of pass rushers. I mean, you mentioned Leonard Williams going for a second, and Leonard Williams is probably like 10 years older. I mean, yeah, 10 years, but like
Yeah.
he's
No,
a
he's
lot
older.
older than Chase Young. And man, that's just it kind of feels like highway robbery from San Francisco. Like they find a way to kind of pull these trades off. And you're like,
And like, I
geez,
get, I
but
get if the Commanders don't want to extend him, they're like, well, let's ship him now because I don't think we're gonna make the playoffs this year. Fine,
right.
fine. I just don't understand why they don't want to extend. Like, that's where I'm coming from. Is like, what has he done to make you move on so quickly from a second overall pick? It's not like the quarterback position either, right? It's not like it
True.
kind of falls under the Baker Mayfield thing for me, actually. Like, where, like, he's not the problem here. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
Like,
absolutely.
and look at the Browns; they're probably worse off now than they were with Baker. Like,
This
um,
is true. Stats
so
on
that's my problem with him. Montez Sweat, they obviously got a great guy. I guess the Giants are mailing it in, the Leonard Williams trade. I mean, do you disagree?
that.
Like, I think they got a decent haul.
No, that's great. All second
Yeah,
round for that. I think that's great.
yeah. I
Same with
think that
Montez Sweat.
I think that the Giants have had a poor start to the season. I think they expected to be in playoff contention, and now you've got Jones and Tyrod out. You're starting DeVito. Um, you're 2-6, I think. Like, you should have won the game last week, but your kicker missed a 35 yarder to ice the game.
Cram
Uh,
Gano, all
yeah,
reliable as that. That's how you know his
yeah,
year's just
yeah. I think the
uh,
year's just not off to the start they wanted, and they're just kind of mailing it in. I still think Dable's their guy. Jones is debatable, but I really think that they just need offensive line help more than anything. How about Donovan Peoples Jones to the Lions? I actually really like it.
yeah, it definitely like helps out. You know what the Lions got going on. Definitely doesn't hurt them. And for the value, like 6th round pick is nothing to the Lions right now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, from the Browns' perspective, I mean, I don't think they're really utilizing them the best way either.
No, I
So
think
like,
that, and
I
I
think it
think
really
that
is the best way for both parties. To be honest, it might be the most win-win trade we got.
the Lions have they've been looking for a wide receiver too, and Jamison Williams. First off, he hasn't been on the field. Second off, like, he's not there yet. And for immediate help, like, if they're going to go try and get it this year, I don't hate it, or this year or next. Like, I don't hate it. Um,
Right.
but that's kind of it for trade deadline talks. We'll obviously keep you updated if anything crazy happens while we're still recording. But buy, sell, hold. You got two potential acquisitions. Anything you want to sell, or anything like that?
No, no. Yeah, I don't need to sell anything. I was because of just the deadline moves. I'm gonna put some just stock in a Nick Bosa. Just in when I say like resurgence, this is contingent on Chase Young being with the team next year. All right. In 2024, he will get 24 sacks. And
Whoa.
that sounds crazy, but I just think of even back to the Legion of Boom days of Seattle and what they brought in either I think Chris Clemens had been there and they brought in like Cliff Averill. And it's like Cliff Averill at face value isn't the best, D end of all time, but what he provided as a pass rusher allowed both of them to really operate and help Seattle. They would sit in the cover three, like they would bring four guys and they'd still get pressure home every time. 49ers having the ability to do that and having a guy of Nick Bosa's caliber, I could see him passing Strahan. I could see it. So that's my long-term take. In terms of confidence, I'm gonna put a 1 in it just because it's a record like that would have to be broken. But I just really want to put it out there that I
I
think
don't
this is
hate
a
it. No,
huge
I don't.
move for
I don't hate
Sanford.
it. Assuming Chase Young stays, I really don't hate it. All right, I'm gonna actually make a sale here.
Mm,
I don't know if it's a loss. You can tell me. On October 5th, I purchased stock saying Justin Fields would be an Atlanta Falcon. by fall camp in 24. I really think this Montez Sweat move to me says they're rolling with Fields. Like I don't know. I don't know how I think that. I just do. Like I think I just my feeling of Fields being gone and the Bears moving on. Like I think they want to stay with Justin Fields. I could regret selling this because it is kind of it wasn't a great Hail Mary, but I'm gonna sell it now. I guess you're the deciding vote on if it's a win or a loss. But
I mean, I don't know
I
what
would,
I'm rating it on. Like,
yeah,
no
like
offense, I don't see how it's a win.
yeah.
Like
I think
Fields
it's
is hurt with a thumb injury. Like
I think
it's
it's just I think I'm just selling it now.
probably a loss. Like
I'll take the loss. It was too confident. So tough break.
yeah,
It is what it is. In terms
yeah.
of acquisitions today, I don't have much other than I think that yeah, I guess it's my Super Bowl prediction, so I don't even have to do it. So I'm not gonna say Bengals. it's
That's
that's
fair.
already
Yeah.
it's already my Super Bowl. Like I had them in the Super Bowl, but yeah, I don't have much to add. Yeah, I can't really think of anything crazy to add. So
Okay. Yeah, we can just.
yeah,
I mean, if you want to
we
move
can
right on the
pivot.
predictions.
Yeah, if I think of something before the end of the episode, I'll buy it. But I don't know much.
Definitely. Yeah.
So as I said before, 75 and 47 is me. You're 64 and 58. I was 10-6. You were 7-9. Thursday night football: Titans at Steelers. Where you at?
Oh, did the Steelers win last week? No, they didn't. No, Jaguars. So I'm going to take the Steelers because they got to stay around that like 500 or above mark. So
So I have Steelers written down, but because it's at home. But forgot I don't think Minka Fitzpatrick is playing. And the reason I had the Steelers written down was the Steelers defense against a rookie quarterback. But without Minka, I think I'm going to go with the Titans here, ride the momentum. I don't know if there's enough on a half of football or however much he played to really develop a great game plan to stop him. So I guess I'll roll with the Titans Thursday night. This guy's got fresh legs. Everybody else doesn't. So, all right, here's a big one from Sunday, 1 p.m. game, Dolphins in Arrowhead.
Dolphins. I usually never pick against Chiefs, but I see them going in and winning and people kind of panicking about the Chiefs.
I'll take the Chiefs at home.
Yeah, safe pick.
Yeah,
well, at least we thought last week.
I had Dolphins written down, but I'm going opposite of you on that, just because it's the value on Chiefs at home is there.
I would fade my picks as well.
Vikings going into Atlanta. I'm taking Atlanta. Not really thinking about it. No Kirk.
Yeah, Atlanta, and after that loss last week, they definitely need this one. So
Bears at Saints. I've said multiple times I will never pick the Bears. So
yeah, and man, if as much as it feels, this would probably be a better game for me to take the Bears, but I'm gonna go with the Saints.
Yeah, and it's in New Orleans too. So all right, Rams going into Lambeau Field. I'm assuming you're gonna pick the Packers.
I have to. Locked in as a like lifer, like I have to.
Yeah, well, I'll take the Rams. I think they've hit rock bottom, in my opinion. Especially if they don't. Especially if you got Matthew Stafford airing it out against a secondary that doesn't have Jair on the field because he's hurt, and just traded away Rasul Douglas. I don't know who.
Yeah,
I'll take the Rams. Puka and Cooper just light us up. Commanders going into New England.
New England because of what the Commanders did in terms of just selling. I could see this going the other way though. The Commanders, their offense gets going, it's probably over.
I think I'm going to take the Commanders for that exact reason. I just even without the Chase Young and Montez Sweat, it's like how explosive is New England's offense? And the Commanders, they're explosive, and New England has struggled against explosives all year. So I'll do that. Seahawks going into Baltimore. I'm kind of at a point now where I'm not picking against Baltimore. Like that's kind of at that point. So I'm going to ride with the Ravens.
Oh yeah, I'll second that just because after seeing what they did to the Lions, geez, man, Ravens kind of seem like they're for real this year and should only be getting better down the road.
Yeah. Tampa Bay going into Houston, coming off of the loss against Carolina. Where you at on this one?
I'll go Tampa Bay. Just Houston had a tough week last week. They might have been overperforming a bit.
Tampa's coming off the bye, or did they play Thursday? They played Thursday.
They played Thursday. Honestly, they could have beat the Bills.
Yeah, they were weirdly in that game. Yeah, I'll roll with the Bucks here. I've been liking the Texans, but loss to the Panthers has me shaking my head a little bit. Bucks have been better than their record. Cardinals at Browns. I'm taking the Browns, especially coming off that loss against the Seahawks on the last play of the game.
Right. Yeah, with the Cardinals, I believe they're going to Clayton Tune.
Yeah, and the Cardinals just traded away their starting quarterback.
Yeah. Hard for me to pick that, man. Gonna go with the Browns.
Frank Reich revenge game. Colts going into Carolina.
Yeah, Frank Reich revenge game would. They did pick up a win. I'll take the bait. I'll take the Panthers.
I'll take the Colts. I'll take the Colts.
I'm 7-9 last week. Jeez.
All right. Giants playing the Raiders. As bad as I have the Giants written down, man, because I just refuse to pick the Raiders to win a game, especially after last night's debacle. But where are you at?
I'm actually going to take the Giants too. This might be the only time I actually feel comfortable making this pick. This
sounds kind of cheesy, but I think I'm going to switch it to the Raiders. I forgot the Tyrod. So if you want to switch yours, I feel like that was kind of a sleazy move there to hype up.
I still want to go with the Giants.
All right, well, really let the record show I gave you a chance after accidentally talking.
I don't trust the Raiders, man. McDaniels lost to Jeff Saturday. Like, I don't trust that guy for nothing.
God. Oh, man. All right, Cowboys going into Philly. So the Cowboys, I'm not changing my pick. The Cowboys have been 50-50, blowout, get blown out, get blown out all year. I think this is the week where they get blown out by Philly.
Yeah, it's usually on the schedule. I'll put down Philly as well. This is classic Cowboys performance.
Yeah, and they made no moves at the deadline because
no, they think they're fine. They think they're all good.
Sunday Night Football. I've already said I'm rolling with the Bengals at home against the Bills. Who do you got?
I don't like the Bills like really lately at all. I mean, they're just.
I like their Leonard Fournette signing.
It's not bad. Definitely not bad. I'm definitely going with the Bengals, though. I'm going to ride the hot end. Bills might surprise me here, but I doubt it.
All right, now Chargers at Jets on Monday Night Football. I'm rolling with the Chargers. I think they win back-to-back games in demanding or commanding, fashion. And then they're 4-4, and we're talking about them, the Chargers are in that conversation for a playoff spot, because that's what the Chargers do. They hover around wild card spots.
It is what they do. I'm still going to take the Jets just because I don't trust Chargers, man. I don't trust the Chargers, Raiders, even the Broncos.
Trust Zach Wilson more than the Chargers? Like, you just had a 5-minute rant about how you steal a freaking toothbrush.
I know what I said, but it's really more Robert Salah is a way better coach than Staley.
Well,
and the Jets, if they shut down the Chargers offense, it's a game.
We need to do a hot seat. We need to do a hot seat next week because I've been less vocal than I was last year about coaches that I need to see fired immediately. Granted, we don't have Cliff Kingsbury running around losing games this year, so or Matt Rule, dude. Last year I predicted Matt Rule to the week. That was impressive.
To the week, yeah. That was.
Crazy. We might have to do that next week because it's McDaniels ain't getting fired and he needs to go, and Brandon Staley ain't getting fired, he needs to go. But all right, I think that wraps us up. I want to thank everybody for listening again. Be sure to check us out on TikTok, Twitter, and share your friends, sharing ideas for buy, sell, hold, and whatnot. I can't think of anything I really need to buy right now. Things I might buy in the future because the price might drop, but not right now. So appreciate you guys. We'll be sure we're back next Monday, and happy Halloween.
Yes, sir. Take it easy.